Hey YouTube, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by. This is Matthew with the Counselors Guild, and today we'll be doing a presentation on motivational interviewing. Motivation and change. So first up, what is motivation? Okay, motivation is a key to change. The probability that a person will enter into, continue, and adhere to a specific change strategy is based on their level of motivation. If they have low motivation, they're not going to change. They're not going to change very fast. They got to want to change because change is hard, especially when you're trying to change a cycle of behavior that they've had for 20, 30, 40 years. So you got to stay motivated. Motivation is multidimensional. It encompasses numerous aspects of the person's life. Motivation is also dynamic and fluctuates. About to say, it fluctuates. You may be high on motivation, doing really well, making a lot of changes, a lot of behavior changes, and then you lost your job, and you kind of that due to that environmental stress, your motivation may decrease. Okay, so as a therapist, counselor, you're going to want to make sure to know that your client is going through that, so you can take steps and help that person through that stage in their life. Motivation is influenced by social interactions. Motivation can be modified. Okay, that's what the point of motivational interviewing is to modify the motivation, increase it so they can make the changes needed. I'm sure if you work in the field, you probably had a client or two that were very low motivated, maybe even not had any motivation, or they don't think anything's wrong with them. When I use motivational interviewing, I used it first when I was working in residential with the chronic mental illness, like schizophrenia, real bad schizophrenia, the I'd say more severe cases, bipolar, those types of things that it works on people that probably haven't made very good clients. They maybe did not respond to treatment very well. So this is kind of like a good, I don't want to say like bottom of the barrel, but maybe not even a last ditch effort. It's really a good, simple, easy orientation to use for difficult clients that don't change very much. I know it's used in drug rehab, but I know it for people that have serious chronic mental illness. So the clinician's task is to elicit and enhance motivation. Okay, all right. So motivational interviewing is what it's called. There's a book written on it. I think I have it. Oh yeah, I have it here. Hang on, let me show you. I gotta reach way back. This one here. This is actually the old version by William Miller and Stephen Rolnick. There's a newer version of it, but that's where I got a lot of the information from. So motivational interviewing is a client-centered, directive method for enhancing intrinsic motivation. So intrinsic is coming from within. You're motivated to make changes from within. You're not motivated to change based on extrinsic like money or maybe to make your wife happy or things like that. By exploring and resolving ambivalence. So ambivalence, that's kind of when you're on the fence, like you want to change but you don't know how, or it's really hard, I don't want to. So it helps try to get that person over the fence and onto that wanting to change side of it. Motivational interviewing activates the capability for beneficial change that everyone possesses. Okay, we all possess the ability to change. We can all change who we are. There's a lot of static in who somebody is, but when you have a cycle of maladaptive behavior, that has to change. You have to work at that because it's now not allowing you to function in society. So we have to change that cycle. And help you live, in the world, whether it's, for relationships, jobs, social, maybe just even your own mental health. There's changes you have to make when it's hurting you. Motivational interviewing is a non-directive approach. Did I just say directive on the back? Hang on a second. It's a directive method for enhancing. I'm pretty sure it's non-directive though. When I read that, I thought that was kind of weird, but it is non-directive. It is non-directive. Okay, you're not telling the person what to do. You may give them maybe some hints on how to change that behavior, but again, the client is the expert on their own lives. They know what works. You kind of have a universal, like, oh, this, you're depressed. Well, this kind of works. You kind of have that universal knowledge that can be applied to it, but they know their life better than you, so you gotta let them decide on how they want to change and when they want to change. Can't really force them. But anyway, non-directive. I'm pretty sure it's non-directive. Use the mnemonic ORS to use this approach. And this kind of reminds me of that therapeutic or that active listening. O is ask open-ended questions, facilitate dialogue. A, provide affirmations, validate the client's experience. Reflect that you have accurately heard and understood. And summarize, reinforce what has been said, shows you've been listening carefully. So I think that's also called active listening. I think there's a little bit more to active listening too, like just paraphrasing and things like that. But pretty close. So if say for instance you have a client, you just don't know what to do. You don't know where to go. They're not wanting to change. They're not thinking anything's wrong with them, even though they're in a residential facility for maybe at-risk youth or something like that. Sometimes, spending the session just asking open-ended questions, providing affirmation, doing the ORS, will give you something to work on. It'll give you a good approach you can use with that client. The spirit of motivational interviewing. So fundamental approach, collaborating, evocation, and autonomy. That what you don't want is confrontate. Well, I believe you do want to confront. Opposite approach, confrontation, education, and authority. I believe you do want to confront. I remember reading that in the book. There's a part about confrontation when it's necessary. I believe there is a time to confront your client. Education, authority. I don't like the authority part. I don't think, as a therapist, you want to be looked on as an authority figure. That might change your relationship with that person. But anyway, so that's kind of the spirit of motivational interviewing. Autonomy, that means they're in charge of their direction on where they want to go. Okay, you're collaborating, you're educating. We'll get to the education part later on. The 4 general principles: express empathy, develop discrepancy. The discrepancy is they know something is bad, but they do it anyway. So when you're a therapist, you can say, well, didn't you say, smoking is really bad for your health and you want to live long for your kid? And they smoke, and so it's kind of, I guess, confronting. It's calling them out on that, and it's saying, hey, you got this discrepancy. You know this is bad. You want to live a long time for your kids. You want to be healthy. So it's developing that discrepancy in their mind, so they can go back to that when they're feeling like an urge to smoke or something. Roll with resistance. You're going to get resistance in treatment. Again, if you're working with difficult clients, you're going to get a lot of this. Just roll with it. You can't force somebody to get better. You can't force people to change. You're going to have bumps in the road. You're going to have relapses. You're going to have you're going to have all that. So roll with it. Don't. As a therapist, you can't put too much stress on your shoulders about change, about getting results. Okay. So just roll with that resistance and support self-efficacy. And that's doing for self. Support that. When they do something for themselves, when they make those changes, support that. Praise that. All right. So expressing empathy. Okay, I guess we're going to go over these 4. All right. So this is a big one. Therapeutic. Therapist should be pretty empathetic, right? We should know what empathy is, not sympathy. We're not feeling sorry for these people. Communicates respect for and acceptance of clients and their feelings. Encourages a non-judgmental collaborative relationship. So when that addict is sitting in front of you saying they used again, you're not there to scold them. You're there to talk about it. What happened? What was your trigger? What were you feeling? What were you going through? And then when they talk about it, you say, yeah, that's a very tough time. Your boyfriend threw you out. You're under a lot of stress. Yeah, I understand that. You're not, wagging your finger and being like that to them. This allows you to be supportive and knowledgeable consultant. They're going to be somebody you want to talk to. Like, I think that's what makes therapists kind of unique than like a friend or somebody else, is that they're not going to talk down to you and scold you and tell you, oh, you know better than that. It's not that kind of talk. They're empathetic. Sincerely compliments rather than denigrates, listens rather than tells, gently persuades with the understanding that the decision to change is the client's. Provides support throughout the recovery process. Okay, so that's really important. That's number one. Express empathy. And that goes with any really orientation, motivational interviewing, CBT, DBT, any of those therapeutic orientations. Empathy is important. Discrepancies. Developing discrepancy. Motivation for change is enhanced when clients perceive discrepancies between their current situation and their hopes for the future. Help focus your client's attention on how current behavior differs from ideal and desired behavior. Raise clients' awareness of the negative personal, familial, or community consequences of a problem behavior and helping them confront the substance use that contributed to the consequence or the behavior, whatever that cycle is that is causing them to not be successful in living in the world. Okay. Avoid arguments. At all cost. You're not there to argue. You're not there to fight. You're not there to, like I said, denigrate. Be supportive. That's what they need. They probably have had that finger wagged at them their whole life. They need that person to talk to and open up to. And if you're not empathetic, they're not going to want to talk to you. Roll with resistance. Resistance is a signal that the client views the situation differently. Resistance is a signal that to change direction and listen more carefully. Adjusting to resistances is similar to avoiding argument in that it offers another chance to express empathy by remaining non-judgmental and respectful, encouraging the client to talk and stay involved. Okay, roll with it. If they again are resistant, and you approach it in a different way, they may never see you again. They may say, you know what, screw that guy, I don't want to talk to him anymore, he makes me feel worse. Then they're out on the street using drugs with nobody to support them. Okay, so just roll with it. If you're in a situation I was in residential with the chronic severe mental illness, if you don't roll with the resistance, because man, you get a lot of it, it's going to tear you up as a therapist, as a mental health professional. It's really gonna eat you up. You got to roll with it. Change is really slow for a lot of people, and you just kind of roll with it when they're fighting you. Okay. Common defense components of resistance to change: denial, the most common; minimalization, used to maintain self-esteem. The problem's not that bad. I don't really use all that much, just on the weekends. Projection, projective function may cover deeper disturbances. Rationalization, clever answers used to avoid responsibility. Compliance, hidden form of resistance, which is kind of funny, I think. If they're compliant, how is that resistant? Conflict avoidance, problems handling feelings of anger and disappointment. Yeah, so they kind of avoid it. Obsessive focusing, all or none thinking. Maybe overly self-critical or overly critical of others, maybe perfectionistic. Acting out. And why perfectionistic is a problem is that no one's perfect, and if you set perfect standards, you're probably going to fail. So you're going to give up, or you're going to beat yourself up and bring yourself down. So acting out lacks awareness of feelings, impulses, communicated by behavior. Okay. So acting out. That's the common defense components of resistance. All right, 4, support self-efficacy requires eliciting and supporting hope, optimism, and the feasibility of accomplishing change. Recognize the client's strength and bring them to the forefront whenever possible. Clinicians need to believe in their clients' capacity to reach their goals. Education can increase clients' sense of self-efficacy. Clients must ultimately come to believe that change is their responsibility and that long-term success begins with a single step. Okay? Again, change, to whatever, making changes to your goals, it's done in steps. It's not done in one giant leap. You got to take small steps, and eventually you'll get to your goals, but you got to keep making them steps, and you got to have that motivation to continue making them steps. Let's see, where was I? The bottom one? Yeah, the responsibility. I sat down a client recently. He was a kid, residential, and I told him, like, look, it's your responsibility. He didn't like taking responsibility, kind of pointing the finger. A lot of people blame people. But I told him, you're responsible for being here, and you're also responsible for getting out of here. What are we going to do? Where do you want to start? What goals do you want to set for yourself? Some people have a hard time accepting that. But you can't change until you accept that responsibility that, yeah, I have a problem with behaviors. I got a problem with alcohol. I got a problem with anger. I want to change, If you keep denying it and blaming others, pointing other finger at other people, you're never going to get there. Frames approach to remind counselors to the effective ingredients. All right, feedback. Ask for it. Ask the client. I know I'm doing a book report on solution focused. They actually hand out like charts and scales for clients after every session. That what's your feedback? How'd it go? Are we going the right direction? Am I working on things you want? What do you think? This is your time. You're paying for it. Is this what you want? If not, what do we need to do differently? Always important. Okay, it's a good way to keep clients too. Responsibility. Stress whose responsibility it is to change. Again, we just had that conversation. It's always on the client. Do not put that burden on your shoulders as a therapist. You are not responsible for their outcome. Okay, they are. Advice. Ask to give and be neutral about it. Okay, you're not. I know it's hard not to give advice when you know the right way of doing things, the right way of thinking about things. So that's very tricky not to do with clients, is to give advice, be neutral about it. Let them come up with their own way of doing it. Kind of guide them into the right way. Menu. Offer more than one choice, and empathy. Give it, not sympathy. Self-efficacy. You can do it, and B, it will benefit you if you do. Change. All right, the stages of change. All right, so we got pre-contemplation. That's where most people start at if it's like their first time in treatment. So pre-contemplation means they have no awareness that there's an issue. They don't think anything's a problem. They're not really, no intention of changing behavior. They have no intention. Contemplation. They're aware a problem exists. A little bit of insight into their issues, but they're not really committed to action. They're not committed to change. Not committed to anything. Preparation, intent on taking action. And then you got action, active modification of behaviors. Maintenance, sustained change. New behavior replaces old. Okay, you're maintaining that. Remember, to change that cycle of behavior, you got to change, something that's been in place for years. It takes a long time and a lot of steps, but you can't get there. And then relapse, fall back into old patterns of behavior. Is there always a relapse? Yes, I think most people do relapse. Whether it's drugs, whether it's anger management. But the point is, you're going to have bumps in your road. Don't go back to pre-contemplation or contemplation. Go back to that maintenance. Go back to that action, okay? And then keep going. So relapse is a possibility. Now, when I worked in the chronic mentally ill population, most of them were in a pre-contemplation or contemplation, with that schizophrenia. A lot of them had that anosognosia where they just had no insight. They don't think there's anything wrong with them. They don't know why they're here. So there's just no intention of changing. What's there to change? There's nothing wrong with me. So a lot of people were stuck there for a while. But even still, they did make some changes. I'm like taking medication, regularly every day for 1 month was a huge step for them. Being in a community setting for a month is a big step for them. Not being hospitalized for a month is a big step for them. So even though they're in a pre-contemplation stage or even a contemplation stage, they still made changes to live in the least restrictive setting possible that they could. And with drug abuse, again, relapse is so popular. Not popular. I don't want to paint it as good, but common. But it's picking up the pieces and going right back to where you were. That's what's the most important. Staying motivated. Pre-contemplation. So when you're in pre-contemplation, there's going to be certain interventions as a therapist you want to use. Okay. So pre-contemplation, individuals are not concerned about their substance use. Yeah, it's not a problem. They haven't hit their bottom yet, maybe. Are not considering changing their behavior, may remain at this stage for years, rarely or never thinking about change. So if you have a client coming in your office and they're like that, interventions, rapport, ask for permission, build trust. Exploring the pros and cons of substance use. Examining or substance use, or even pros and cons of taking medication. Pros and cons of using communication skills, or if you have somebody who's chronically mentally ill, pros and cons of cleaning up your room, taking care of yourself, that type of thing. Examining discrepancies between the clients and others' perceptions of the behavior, the problem behavior. Okay, so you're trying to develop that discrepancy. Contemplation. Behaviors. The client acknowledges concerns and is considering the possibility of change, but is ambivalent and uncertain. So ambivalent is different than is it different? Ambivalent is wanting to change but don't know how, right? So you're gonna acknowledge. But they're ambivalent and uncertain. Typically, they are ambivalent simultaneously, seeing reasons to change and reasons not. I want to give up the drugs because they may kill me, but they help me deal with a lot of depression and trauma, and I don't want to think about that stuff. So I don't know what I want to do. Interventions. Normalize ambivalence. Change extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. Okay. Again, I don't want to deal with the pain and suffering that I went through. I feel like someone who uses drugs for that. I feel like that's kind of intrinsic though, because that's kind of inner. But I guess it could be used as extrinsic because it's an emotion, or it's a memory, or it's a traumatic experience that comes from within. So I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Anyway, we want to change that extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. Examine the client's personal values in relation to change. Okay. Big thing I did with clients is there was a exercise I did. I believe it's on therapistaid.com. It gives you a list of values, and you put 1 to 10. What's most important? And most people would put family. Okay, family is important. It's number 1. It's your biggest value, taking care of your family. How do you do that when you're getting high every weekend? Or how do you do that if you're not taking your medication to control your moods? So you create that discrepancy. Let's see. Emphasize the client's free choice, responsibility, and self-efficacy for change. It is up to them. Okay, do you want to stop using that fentanyl? It's up to you. I'm ready. I'm here for you whenever you're ready to do that. If you're not ready to do that, I'm still here for you. Okay. Preparation. Behavior. Decisional balance tips in favor of change. Makes plans to stop using. Commitment is strengthened. Intervention. Something you want to do. Clarify the client's own goals, strategies for change. With permission, offer expertise and advice. So there goes your advice. Okay, with permission though. Okay, so I think it's important to do that permission, to ask, hey, is it okay if I give you a little bit of advice? Just so I think it helps the client's not viewing you as like a parent talking down to them, or it's unsolicited advice. If you do that too often, I think clients kind of get turned off and may not show up again. So ask permission. It won't hurt, and I think that'd help. It would help protect their autonomy, maybe, and it'd help them feel like they're more in control of the therapy session. Which they are. It's their time. They're in complete control. They can talk about whatever they want. Sometimes when my clients, they tend to go off on tangents. Sometimes I try to bring it back a little bit to something that's therapy related. But I'm not that directive. I like a little direction, but not a lot. Negotiate a change or treatment plan and behavior contract. Okay, so that is the behavior. That's preparation stage of change. Action stage. All right, so the client's behavior. Choose a strategy for change and begin to pursue it. Again, that should be something that they're for. If it's a strategy as a counselor you come up with, the client may not like it. They may not do it, and they may go right back to preparation or even contemplation. So make sure they're part of that strategy change. Actively modify their habits and environment. They're making drastic lifestyle changes, and they're reevaluating their own self-image. Intervention. Engage the client in treatment and reinforce the importance of remaining in recovery. Support a realistic view of change through small steps. You're not going to kick a 20-year, nicotine habit, in 3 days. It takes a while. You're going to have a lot of triggers. You got to figure out how to go to work without having them, driving your car. It takes time, but you have to eventually replace that old cycle of doing things with a new one. Identify high-risk situations. Help with finding new reinforcers for positive change. Okay, so that is the action stage. Maintenance stage of change. All right, so behavior efforts are made to sustain the gains achieved during action stage. Work to sustain sobriety and prevent reoccurrences. Learn how to detect and guard against dangerous situations and other triggers. So you might look at this and I'm just talking about substance use. It's not just about substance use. You can use maintenance stage for mental illness as well. Just replace sobriety with stability, maybe. They're making efforts to sustain and gains achieved during their action stage. So they're trying to continue the process, taking their medicine, they're going to groups maybe, they're got a job, they're taking care of themselves, they're paying their bills, they're budgeting money, things like that. So whatever makes a debilitating mental illness not debilitating, the opposite. If that's what they're doing, I guess every mental illness had a different debilitating behavior. So, but however you want to apply it, but this can be applied to anything: substance use, mental illness. Let's see. Did I read the interventions? Support lifestyle change, affirm the client's resolve and self-efficacy, help and find new coping strategies, maintain supportive contact, and review long-term goals with clients. Relapse stage. Behavior, return to substance use, or if they had a relapse in their symptoms, maybe they became depressed, hearing voices, manic, things like that. So return to substance use or behaviors after a period of abstinence or stability is the rule rather than the exception. Okay? Return to earlier stage of change and recycling through the process. Individuals may learn what goals were unrealistic or which strategies were effective. Okay? It's a learning process. Intervention. Help the client re-enter the change cycle and commend any willingness to reconsider positive change. Explore the meaning and reality of the recurrence as a learning opportunity. Assist the client in finding alternative coping strategies. As your references, really the TIP 35 from SAMHSA, this is I think where I got the bulk of this. If you go to this website, it's free of charge. Sam said it's all paid by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. If you go to, well, maybe if I just type it in, TIP, Treatment Intervention Protocol. Yeah, this is it right here. They used to have the actual book, but they only give you the PDF now. This talks about the stages of change, and it gives you all the interventions. Basically, what I just talked about. You can download it. Let's see if I can find it, man. That'd probably take me a while. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here we go. It goes through all that. And it'll give you the different interventions and things like that. It's not a difficult read. It's just very manually. I know it's a manual. It's just very manually. It's nothing like I don't know, one of those books back behind me. You just read on your enjoying on your day off. You want to read something. This is just very manually. So I use it at my work. I keep it at my desk and use it as I need it. So this is the stage of the change. I wonder if it'll give me it gives me a bunch of stuff. But anyway, it has a lot of information in it. It's not that long. A couple, maybe 200 pages. Yeah. Oh, not even 200, maybe 150. Last. Oh, okay. Oh, they even give you appendixes here. What's this stage of the change readiness? It gives you the little assessment. You can determine where they're at in their stage of change. So check that out. I mean, if you're interested in motivational interviewing, stage of the change, if you're working with people with substance use, chronic mental illness, or if you just want something that maybe you're stuck with somebody and you just want something that's simple, that you can follow, that kind of gives you something to do with the person. If they're resistant and they're denying and they're refusing, get that active listening or those oars out. Those frames, and just go with that until something pops up or something you find something to work on. Okay. But that's enhancing motivation change. It says substance use, but you can use it for mental illness, any type of behavior disorders. Unless you're using CBT or something like that, and you want to use that. But check that out. It's free. You can download it. They have a whole bunch of these different types of manuals you can have for free. But yeah, I think that's it. That's motivational interviewing with the stage of the change. I believe it's called, what type of therapy is it called? Is it motivational enhancement therapy? I believe it's called. When you put the motivational interviewing with the stage of the change, I believe that's what it's called. But yeah, that's motivational interviewing. If I missed something, please give me a comment. If you'd like to comment, go ahead. I try to read them. I don't have a whole lot, but I will get back to you. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to grow. Right now, I think I got about 22, so that's cool. Doubled from last year, so I met my my goal for the year. But yeah, give me a thumbs up. Let me know how I'm doing. If you would like for me to do a video on anything, let me know in the comments. And you have a great day, and thanks for watching. I appreciate it.